Okay, so this is going to be the first video in a series concerning weather effects. These are going to be done using particle systems. And one of the things that you'll probably notice is that a lot of times you're not going to be able to create what you want with just one particle system. You actually need multiple particle systems to get what you want, and that's fine too, because as long as there isn't a performance impact, then you can just link a lot of these particle systems together, have them be instantiated or deleted concurrently, and that way it's really the user themselves, the player, it doesn't stick out to them that these are multiple things going on. They just see the one effect. So what I've done so far is I imported the image. I just drag and dropped it from the folder, and then I dragged and dropped it up here into our scene. So what we're going to do is go up to Game Object and we click on Particle System. And you don't have to name it since it's a simple one, but I'm just going to call it Snow. As you can see, by default it's pointing up. So what you do is you just come over here to the rotation, and for the X rotation you change it from -90 to 90. Now it's pointing down. Let's go to Shape, and well, actually we can keep it as a cone, but we're just going to turn it more into a cylinder rather than a cone. I'm going to come up here. This way we can increase the area in which it will be generated from. Let's push that up off the screen because you don't want them to instantiate into the screen. You wanted to see them drop down from above the top border. Now we have to do a bunch of things. First of all, we have to change the size and change the speed, since it's snow after all. Increase the lifetime because it's moving slower now. And again, when they disappear, you want them really to disappear once they've passed the bottom, so make sure they last long enough. So let's see how that looks. And let's make one more change so we don't have to wait forever. We're going to pre-warm. Pre-warm means that's already gone through one cycle. So not bad. A little bit big. So let's change that just a little bit. Okay, now what we're going to do is, since we have the basics, we're going to copy, paste, copy, paste. So now we have 3. We're going to take one, drag it off to the right, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go to velocity over lifetime. We're going to give it a little bit of an X direction. So that's a little bit severe, so let's do it's better. And some of this is subjective. Maybe you want it to I'm doing kind of like this gentle floating snow. You might want something to be more harsh, and then by all means you can, change these numbers so it looks like it's coming down faster. And then we'll take the other one and move it in the opposite direction, this time to the left. Again, go to velocity of lifetime and give it a positive version. And at that point we're almost done. Might just have to tweak how far out these are. Okay, that looks good. And there you go. Okay, I took a quick break there. As you can see, we have a new image down here. Basically, I use Anime Studio Pro 8, and I just drew a little white mound. Nothing really particular about it. Depending on what size, you might want to change pixels per unit, but probably don't have to in this case because we're going to scale the object. So what this is going to be is this is going to be the buildup of snow. So we're just going to drag and drop this. Now, if this was going to occur in a whole bunch of places, then you could create a prefab, but since we're doing a very small scale project, we can just drag and drop this a few times and then apply what's going to be a script to each one. And we'll just change these names so we don't get confused. So what's going to happen is as the snow is falling, these piles are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and hopefully it's slow enough so that it's not really detectable, that eventually more snow will be there, but you won't, the player won't actually see the actual increases. It'll happen gradual enough. So to do this, select all the snow piles, click Add Component, we'll do New Script, and we'll just call it Build Up. Open up that script. And what I did is I already wrote it out, so I'm just going to paste it in here, but we'll review it in its entirety. Okay, so first thing, I'm going to look at the two variables. If you've seen any of my other videos, this will look familiar. If not, I'll run through it right now. So total time, it's a float because it's going to have fractions or decimals. And total time, as the name would suggest, is going to track time. So we start at 0. This is going to be the scale that those piles are going to be changed to throughout the as long as the program is running. We can get rid of these, well, this one anyways, the start, get rid of that. Again, in your project you might need them, but for demonstrative purposes we're keeping this as simple as possible. So the update, we're taking the variable and we're adding time.delta time. So this is just saying how much time has passed since the last time this ran. This runs once per frame. So a frame is one run through the update area, as well as any other routines that get run every single frame. If you remember from math class, delta means change in, so this is the change in time. So you're just making this running queue. Okay, so next is if. So if, open parentheses, the variable we're looking at, total time, is greater than 0.5, and then close parenthesis. If you're ever checking for an equals, you have to do a double equal sign. But in this case, we're not doing equal, we're just doing greater than. So if it turns out to be true, you'd brackets to surround anything that has to be completed if this is true. We're setting total time back to 0. So in other words, every half a second we want this to occur. And we're taking object size and just adding this amount to it. It's an arbitrary amount. Basically it was just an amount to increase the size by, so as it actually makes a difference, but not so much as to be readily obvious. And then we just get component. Which component we looking for? Looking at the transform component. So if you bring up the object that's attached to, see, transform component, we're changing the local scale. So here, scale, the attribute of that component that's being changed, and it's a vector 3. So x, y, and z. So let's go ahead and save that. Since all these were highlighted, the script should already be on all of them, and it is. And now we just run this. And slowly but surely, the snow is indeed building up. You can put an absolute limit if you don't want the snow to build up too much. Obviously, since this is a 2D image, it'd be a problem if, say, this pile of snow starts covering the sidewalk. You'd really want to have that drawn differently. So you can put an absolute limit there so it doesn't get too big. and I used the same image for each snow pile, you certainly could use a different one. That's about it.